Um, Welcome again, and thank you for letting me into your world, into your presence, and for taking the opportunity to listen to me and to be educated by me and to understand the philosophy and the ideology for which we stand. The project of the resurrection. I have decided to do a series of videos on various groups in the United States of America. The first one I will do and I will never do is one on the European Americans and on the what you call the white people, the pure people, the right people, the good people, because there's no need to tell their story. But I want to tell the story of the sons and daughters of Ham. And I want to compare the story to all of the other peoples, the newly arrived immigrants, whom the sons and daughters of Ham, through their struggles in the 60s and through the Civil Rights Act of 1965, made it possible for people other than Northern Europeans to obtain visas and immigrant status to come to the United States of America, which opened the way for a number of South Asians and Chinese and other types of people to come to the United States of America, including as well a lot of Africans and Nigerians. And you'll find that in many parts of the United States of America, it is the Nigerian Africans who are holding up the standards for black people and for African people. I want to show you and demonstrate to you how the Chinese people who have resettled in the United States of America, they have not assimilated, they have not integrated, they have maintained their own autonomy, a state within a state. The same way for the Pakistanis, the same way for the Indians, the same way for the Bangladeshis. And I will show you that they brought with them their own culture. The Negro slaves were not able to bring their own culture. They were not able to bring their own language. They were not able to bring their own foods. They were not able to have their own groceries. But today, all of these other peoples, the West Asians or whatever the hell you call them, whether they come from India, Bangladesh, whether they come from Vietnam, whether they come from China, Indonesia, and they come to the United States of America, they are able to bring their culture with them. They have their own grocery stores, their own supply chains. And if you go to let me give you a story. There was an Indian store in Sugarland next to Specs Liquor Store. And I was curious to go in there and to take in the vibes of what they had. And you know, me being a descendant of Macandal and coming from Haiti and coming from Dominica and coming from the Caribbean, where we have a mixture of all these cultures which were brought together by the Portuguese, by the Dutch, by the British, and all the slave vendors of the era of African slavery, the discovery of the New World, the decimation of the native peoples, not just in North America, but in South America as well, of the Incas, of the Aztecs, and of the Mayans. You understand? So what I'm saying to you is, we now live in a society in the United States of America where the Negro race is looked down so low. Dogs have higher class than Negroes. And Negroes have nothing. They have no economic base. They have no economic base. They have no type of social economic cohesion. And when you look at these other tribes that have came, and I will go to Houston, I have documents I already did from Houston. I have to go and dig them up, and that's a task in itself. But I'm going to publish them to show you under the series, those who got to bring their culture with them, those who got to have 5 banks in a 5 square mile area, while in the Negro area, So all over in the history of the United States, these new immigrants would come and they would start off in the ghetto. Today, the Indian immigrants and the Chinese immigrants don't start in the ghetto. They start off in the suburbs of Plano in $500,000 and $1 million homes. In Sugar Land, Texas, they have a whole section that is just Indian $1 million homes. I don't blame them. I do not blame them for being educated. I do not blame them for being medical doctors. I do not blame them for studying computer science, while our own government here in the United States of America has deprived the working class and the working people of the United States of an opportunity to gain technical skills, and have made it so costly that you're going to be broke. I haven't met a broke Indian yet who said he had a loan to pay back for going to study to get a job in the United States of America that would own him over 6 figures. Not just him, but her. And if it's her and him, and together they own 6 figures, they felt they had reached nirvana. They had come to the land of gold and the land of milk and honey. And as you'll see from my studies, these people have stores, they have shops, and when you go to their shop, you will not see a single white person. You wouldn't see a single Hispanic person. And when I go there, they kind of have a reaction to me because they're not sure if I'm a Brahmin. You see, I am lighter than them. I look lighter than them. So sometimes I'm thinking they're reacting to me in a negative way, but that's not what it is. It's the fact that they think I'm from an upper caste. And I'll tell you the story. When I went to the shop next to Specs Liquor on Highway 6 in Sugar Land, the old decrepit man that was guarding the entry and interior stop, he looked at me and he said, no, this no liquor store. This no liquor store. Liquor store next door. Liquor store next door. Because in that man's mind, he could not see me as being a human being that would be, what would have some aspect of the South Asian culture in me, that I cooked with curry, that I used their spices, that we all, being members of the British Empire, had crossed cultures together. He thought that as he saw me as a nigger, and he thought niggers only come to look for liquor store. So he told me Specs was next door. So in this next series of videos I'm going to put out, it's going to be called Those Who Got to Bring Their Culture with Them to the Western World. If you go to the mother country, which is Britain today, when I last went to Britain, and I went to Barking and I went to Ilford, these were places who, when I first went there in the 80s, they had white people. Today they are colonized, what we call reverse colonization, by people from, they call them Pakis, which is a derogative term in England, but there are many people from Pakistan, a lot of Islamic culture, a lot of refugees, a lot of economic refugees. And the Western people didn't realize, when you go and you colonize people and you make them like you and you give them your culture, of course they want to come and be around you. So now they're upset, they're mad, they're saying, well, we don't want all these Pakistanis and Indians in England and in France and in Germany or wherever they are. But you came and colonized us. And now we want to be like you, and we want to be with you. We want to be in our mother country, in Great Britain, which is no longer great. It's no longer great. Britain has fallen. Britain is no longer great. And the only place the sun does not set is on the land that these colonizers took the Africans from Africa and spread them all over the world. So today the sun does not set on the lands that the Africans are set to inherit. My fellow citizens of the world, my brothers and sisters, my friends, my foes, my supporters and detractors, my believers and non-believers, members of the tribe and non-members of the tribe, we are going to embark on a very educational series called Those Who Got to Bring Their Culture with Them. And that includes the Jewish people. Aluta continua. Aluta continua. Oh, by the way, it's today. And today is the 11th of July. And today was an uneventful day because I didn't leave the house except to go and get a haircut to look pretty for you. And I stopped at one South Asian store. And the video you'll see next is from that to set the stage for what I'm going to show you later on. Because I have a lot of videos I made in the past. But the thing with me, I take so many videos, I don't have time. And I have no help. And no one I can rely on to produce them for me. But I'm going to make an effort to put something out for you every day. So you can see. Because you see the camera, I know why people are scared of the camera. It does capture things your eyes don't catch. And you can go back and look at it. You can go back and look at it. And when you look at it, you'll see things you didn't see with your naked eye. Right now, I'm thinking of my deceased Uncle Mon. And when I used to go to England, to London, to Barking and to Ilford and hang out with him, and we used to drink. And he told me that when you drink, you should eat some cheese. And so I'm having some extra chopped cheddar cheese, which was on the verge of spoiling. Because, you know, I'm not a big eater. I mean, sometimes I am, but most times I'm not. I also have an overripe plum that I'm midnight snacking on. I'm going to try to save the seed. So sweet. And I put in the soil and hope it will grow. Now listen now. This is going to be an interesting story. I have videos going back to Houston years ago. And they're there. They're on Apple. They're on Google Drive. They're on some goddamn drive. I just got to think how to find them. And I'm going to give you a story. And this is going to be under the playlist, Those Who Got to Bring Their Culture. And that's also going to include the Nigerians. The Nigerians, the Yoruba, the Igbo. I haven't met too many Hausas. And whatever minority tribes I've met. And my friends from the Congo, whom I've met. Anyway, this is my introduction to those who got to bring their culture with them. And this is copyrighted on the 11th of July 2023. And it's the exclusive property of God Electromy Army Press, the Avenging Army of Fonsa Macandal, Small Axe Productions, and all rights are reserved. You can use it. You can share it with your friends. You can reproduce it. If you make some money off of it, just send me some. I bless you as always.
call your name.
Okay.
Praveen? Praveen?
Did you know that lawns were a tool of colonialism? Yes, that impeccably manicured patch of grass outside those suburban homes actually has a pretty dark history, from the US and India to South Africa, but it all starts in Britain. So, in the 1600s, British aristocrats were cultivating lawns on their private land. And because class was so important to British society, people wanted to show off how rich they were. Rich enough to maintain a basically unused piece of land that served no functional purpose besides looking nice, and maybe being a place to hang out on. A lawn is a piece of land that doesn't really generate any value. You don't grow crops on them, you don't raise livestock, nothing, really. And back in the 1600s, maintaining a lawn was incredibly labor-intensive. Remember, this is back before the lawnmower, so you had to have enough money to hire servants who would use scythes to cut the grass by hand. Anyway, by the time the British began colonizing the rest of the world, the lawn was established as a symbol of power and wealth. So British settlers took this idea with them wherever they went. In India, during British rule, homesick colonists would plant lawns to make them feel more at home. They were trying to replicate the aristocratic estates of England, like this. And by doing so, they imposed their idea of beauty, status, and wealth on their newly conquered lands. You see, the Mughal Empire, which ruled much of the Indian subcontinent before the British turned up, had a proud history of creating beautiful gardens. For example, the Taj Mahal, a gorgeous piece of Mughal architecture, was surrounded by sculpted gardens, like this. But then the British completely destroyed those gardens and installed English-style lawns so they could get a better view of the Taj Mahal. The British also cultivated lawns during their rule of South Africa. The headquarters of the South African government were built by British colonial architects and featured huge sprawling lawns. And private lawns were common in the homes of South Africa's wealthy, majority-white suburban neighborhoods. But the British lawn, a green, perfectly manicured patch of grass, is completely at odds with the dry South African landscape, requiring constant watering and maintenance. As a result, South African scholars have argued that this British idea of a perfect green lawn was a way for colonizers to establish control over the African landscape, or, as they put it, bring civility to the wilderness. In other words, it was a way for British settlers to make the southern African landscape less African and claim it for themselves. But nowhere has the British lawn taken root more strongly than the United States. British settlers arriving in the Americas brought their European livestock with them, which decimated indigenous grasses and plants through grazing. So they planted their own invasive species of grasses instead, like Kentucky bluegrass, a popular US lawn grass that's actually native to Europe and Asia. But it wasn't until the early 1900s that the idea of having a lawn really took off with the American middle class. The invention of the motorized lawnmower around that time made lawns cheaper and more accessible. And as automobiles and trains became more common, homeowners were expected to beautify their homes for the benefit of people passing by. After World War II, returning soldiers were even promised houses with lawns, designed to look like upper middle class homes. And today, Americans spend billions and billions of dollars every year on keeping their lawns nice and green. But given the global climate catastrophe we face, you really start to question why we still have so many lawns. They use up tons and tons and tons of water. They destroy wildlife habitats and pollute waterways due to the runoff from the immense amounts of fertilizer used to maintain them. Lawns are not only a drain on the natural environment, but they're also a colonially inspired way to basically show off. So maybe it's time to rethink this whole lawn thing. Okay, bye.